Welcome to each of you to today's annual general meeting of Rangers International Football Club plc. I'd also like to wish a special welcome to our new manager, Giovanni van Bronckhorst. We'll start with a few words from our chairman, Mr. Douglas Park.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank everyone for coming this morning. 2021 AGM. Gio, James already introduced Gio, and I think it's great to have him on our team. We've got the league trophy with us again this year, and it's back where it should be. And I also would like to thank James Blair for the amount of work he's put in arranging today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can start by introducing today's main table. From my immediate right, we have from the Rangers Football Club Limited, David Graham, our Head of Communications and Media Relations. Kenny Barclay, our Head of Finance. Then from your company's board, we have Barry Scott, Graham Park, Alistair Johnson, and your Deputy Chairman, John Bennett. Next, we have Rangers Football Club's new manager, Giovanni van Bronckhorst, your board's chairman, Douglas Park, and again from the Rangers Football Club Limited, we have Stuart Robertson, our Managing Director, James Bisgrove, Commercial and Marketing Director, Ross Wilson, our Sporting Director, Andrew Dixon, our Director of Operations and Football Administration, and finally, we're pleased to welcome Greg McKnight from your auditors, Azet. We'll now hear from your operating board, with questions being posed on behalf of shareholders by Mr. Nick Thompson. Those answering the questions will be Stuart Robertson, Ross Wilson, and James Bisgrove. After this section, we'll open up the meeting to questions from the floor. I shall come back to the lectern to explain the process for questions from the meeting after these questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you to James for opening there, and thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Stuart, if I can start with you. You've previously said the club needs to be financially sustainable. Do you believe that we're closer to achieving this?
Firstly, just say good morning to everyone, and great to see so many people here. The short answer to your question is yes, Nick. I think we're on the cusp of it. It's been a long road to get there because we know the investment that was required at the club, and due to the support that we've had from the board and the investors that aren't here today, and the investors sitting in the audience today, we're now very, very close to being at that position. We've said in the financial report that we are looking to record a positive profit at EBITDA level, and that is looking very, very probable rather than possible now. And that's without a player sale. I know there's been a bit of chat on the press about, we need to sell a player. We don't need to sell a player. What we need to do is get ourselves to a normalised position with our player trading model, which is selling the right player at the right time, at the right value for Rangers. And that's something that we're very close to doing. So we are getting close to financial sustainability. We can't keep expecting the investors to shore up the club. I'm also delighted to say that the statement that was in the accounts about us needing another $7.5 million through this season, that's fulfilled already, plus a bit. So we're well covered in terms of the finances of the club And that's again down to the guys in the trading. So everybody can be confident about the financial future of the club. We talked last year about the 4 pillars of the club, which are the seasonal revenue, the season tickets and the hospitality, which has been fantastic, you know, and without the support of the season ticket holders, particularly last year through COVID, when the fans didn't get to see any football, that support was invaluable to us. There's the commercial revenues, and James will talk about that shortly, but they're growing, and it's been a fantastic story there. We also have European income, and European football, we know where we should be. You know, we're Rangers, we should be playing regularly to get into group stage and beyond in European football, and that's what we budget for. And that has been fantastic. The last 3 or 4 years has improved the coefficient, the Scottish coefficient, to the extent that we're now looking at the possibility of the winner of the league this year qualifying automatically for Champions League. And I think when you look at what's happened, the coefficient's gone from 26 to 11 at the end of last season. It's currently 9th, you know, provisionally for this season. So that makes a big difference to the finances of the club as well. So I think in short, the answer is yes, we need to be financially sustainable. We need to be running the club within a budget and not dipping into the investors' pockets, and we're very, very close to being there.
James, I guess intrinsically linked to the finances of the club, can you provide an update on the club's commercial activities?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick, and good morning, everyone, from my side. So I think everyone that works in the commercial and marketing team at Rangers is acutely aware of how important the commercial revenues are for this club. Stuart's touched on there the 4 pillars, so we know the role that the commercial revenues have to play within that. We've got a few clear objectives. One, of course, quite obviously, is growing and accelerating all of those revenues as quickly as we can. But alongside that, we also want to deepen fan engagement. We want to grow the fan base of this club. We've got a phenomenal fan base, but we think there's an opportunity to grow it, particularly in international markets, using digital, using marketing activities, also growing and protecting the Rangers brand. We recognise how important that is. So the year under review here was clearly a challenging one given the impact of COVID and the detrimental impact that had on some of our activities, such as stadium tours or hospitality. But when I look across the commercial revenue pillars, of which we have 7, so I've mentioned hospitality there, stadium tours, commercial partnerships, really, really important, kits and retail in terms of the Castor partnership that I'll come on to talk about, digital media, Rangers TV, that's been really, really important. So being able to grow some of those core revenues 30, 40, 100% in the instance of Rangers TV has been really, really positive. So I think what we've been able to achieve in the last 2-3 years is an incremental growth. So we've constantly moved forward, even last year when we had that COVID impact. But if we can look forward for a second for the 21-22 season and recognising that the commercial revenues for the previous 3 seasons have been in around 13, 14, 15 million, the target that we've set for this season is 27.9 million. So this one, as we come out of COVID, as we normalise our business operations, is really the one where we believe we're going to make the impact and get the club back to that level that it needs to be. And then, of course, we're looking at a number of new opportunities. Stuart will touch on Edmonton House, but a really exciting project, a new revenue stream for Rangers, broadcast and Rangers TV I've touched upon, and then the international sphere as well. So, as I said, it was a difficult period last season, but we had a lot of successes within that, and we've got a very high ceiling and a lot of work to do to get to some of the numbers that I've just mentioned there.
Yeah, and for yourself, Ross, great to see Giovanni join us today. Can you talk us through the process behind securing Giovanni as the new manager of the football club?
Yeah, no problem, Nick. Firstly, again, echo the guys. Good morning, everyone. Thanks also to all of the board, our investors and the shareholders today for the continued support, which I think everybody will be proud that ultimately is culminated in the league trophy sitting beside us again, and we definitely couldn't have done that without the continued support of our investors to this point. How I see my role here is I need to lead our football department every single day. I understand that the fans, the media and everybody, they will always look at the player trading part, they'll look at who we buy, who we sell, and that's understandable because that's the exciting bit. But one of the big things I see really important about my role here is making sure we build a really strong and sustainable Rangers, a really modern Rangers football department, a department that can compete at Premier League level down south, because I know what that looks like from my time down there, and making sure we can be as strong as we can possibly be on every single front. A big part of that is making sure that we've got a clear succession plan in place for our key employees. There's no more key employee in the football department than the first team manager. I should go on record again to thank our former manager, Stephen Gerrard, for the work that he did throughout his tenure here for 3.5 years. I thoroughly enjoyed working with him over the last 2 and a bit years, Stephen and his team. But the downside to all of that is, as Stephen was being really, really successful, I became more and more aware that we had to have a clear succession plan for his future, because there was going to be other clubs going to be trying to tempt him back down south. So I thank Stephen for all the work he had done for us, but I had to have an eye on what was next for Rangers. Clearly, Giovanni van Bronckhorst was right at the forefront of my thoughts for a long, long time. There was a lot of work done over the last couple of years to make sure that we were looking to the future, looking what the profile of a Rangers manager looks like now, which is different to what that profile might have looked like 3.5 years ago, and definitely 5 or 6 years ago. We want to be a modern, open-minded club that embraces modern methods, modern techniques. The process to appoint Gio started a long time ago. We wanted to make sure we knew what that market looked like. We wanted to make sure we understood what the profile of a Rangers manager looks like, as I've said already. And then when Stephen announced that he was going to move on, we quickly got to work in that, and we managed to turn everything around basically between the Thursday and the Tuesday. We definitely wanted to make sure that we were open-minded in that process. We met Gio very quickly. We met another couple of candidates quickly after that, and then we were in a position to offer the post to Gio on I think it was the Tuesday evening. So everything moved really, really quickly. We had a lot of brilliant discussions with Gio, both about himself, Rangers, and the backroom team that he would bring, and the guys that would be working with us here. It all moved quickly. It all moved at pace, but we wanted to be decisive and we wanted to move quickly. And again, I've gone on record previously to say that any club would say they want to appoint a really good coach, somebody that's forward-thinking, somebody that can continue to win football matches, and that we definitely want to tick those boxes. But to be the manager of this club is something really special. We wanted to make sure that not only did we appoint the right coach, but we appointed someone who was an outstanding person and absolutely got what this club's all about, and how we will continue to move forward, how we'll work together. And I'm in no doubt at all that we've made a fantastic appointment in Giovanni.
Turning back to yourself, Stuart, there have been further developments to the club's infrastructure over the last year. Can you outline what work has gone on?
Yes, Nick, there's a lot of work has happened through the period of financial review and since then as well. In terms of the specifics, there's obviously new Edmonton House, but we'll touch on that in more detail shortly. Just to take you through some of the specific things that have happened. We've had a new hybrid pitch laid at Ibrox, and that has made a massive difference to the playing surface. The previous pitch it's probably about 25 years since it was properly renovated all the way down. And I think when you speak to Ross and you speak to the players, there's no doubt that the new pitch has been a great investment and one that's actually probably overdue, if we're being honest. But, there's £1 million spent on that. We had to renew the synthetic pitch at the training ground up at Auchenheavy, because, again, the old pitch was just done, frankly. Several £100,000 to lay on that. And, again, that's a solid investment when you've got the investment we're making in the academy. It's really important that we give the players the best facilities to be able to develop and move forward. So that's happened. At Ibrox, we've seen the old stadium's been a bit tired, but hopefully you've seen some improvements and just the general tidying up round about the place. We're having to replace all the lifts around the stadium, and that'll be not far short of £1 million we need to spend on that. That started in Armadillo House, with the first couple almost finished now. Again, the kitchens are almost, I think they're 20, 25 years old and really not fit for what we need to do. So a lot of that you don't see, but that's the kind of investment that we've had to make to get the club back to where it needs to be, because that infrastructure supports everything that we do. The training ground, again, pushed on by Ross and by Stephen when he was here. These guys came from the Premiership. They know what good is. And we had to get the training ground to a level where it makes it, not easier is the wrong word, but it's more attractive to bring players in. because they come in and see the facilities that we've got, and they realise that actually they're joining an elite club and a top club. And I think Ross would agree we're getting to the position now where the facilities at the training ground are where you would want them to be. But that doesn't mean we'll stop. There's still other things to happen. We're conscious that there are areas of the stadium that are below par and below the standard, below Rangers standard. You know, I'm sure things you're aware of, things like the toilets in the stands, they're not at a level they should be, and it's not acceptable. So that'll be an area for the future. The short term, we're also conscious of the disabled access as an area that we haven't moved forward as quickly as we should. So we're far from complacent. As ever, you're weighing up the priorities between all the different areas of the club, as well as the playing squad, and make sure that we're investing in the playing squad and bringing that trophy back time after time, and it's not just a one-off. So that's just a sample of some of the things that have been happening. Like.
Moving back to yourself, James, and you've touched on this a little already. What can you tell us specifically about the kit and retail partnership with Castor?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And I'll try and talk as openly as I can here. And I think, you know, it's absolutely right that everyone associated with this football club has a really high aspiration when it comes to kit and retail. You know, the sales that we've seen on Rangers merchandise, not least last season, were beyond impressive. I think at this current moment in time, we've now got a really strong foundation for the first time in a long time. We're very close to having now, we're actually pretty much there, a normalised kit and retail operation. I think the numbers in the accounts reflected around 4.6 million. I think, you know, with the additional payments and bonuses, I think we'll be a little bit higher than that. I know the Beyond brothers that founded Castor have spoken around a higher aspiration as well, and I'm confident this season, our 150th anniversary season, that number will increase. There's an awful lot of context, and I certainly don't need to emphasise the point for the shareholders in this room in terms of where this football club has come from when it comes to kit and retail, the situation we had in terms of how we were managing that, and if I look now at what we've got, the infrastructure, a thriving store, a Rangers store, Ibrox Stadium. We've got 4 stores at the moment. Another 2 stores are set to open. We actually spoke to our colleagues at Castor about that last week. I think the future is very, very bright. And medium, long term, wherever we get to, whether that be the moment that we sit around the table with Castor and have a renewal conversation, or we go back to the market, which would be very normal in such a situation, for the first time we're going to have very strong sales, very strong data, and great credibility. So I think it hasn't been perfect, particularly at the beginning when we came out of COVID, and there were certain issues and customer service points right at the beginning, but I think there's been fantastic progress on that. And I feel very, very positive and very, very confident about the future when it comes to our kit and retail and the relationship with Castor.
Ross, you've touched a little on this already as well, but how have you continued to evolve the football operation here at the club?
Well, Stuart stole all my thunder by talking about some of the things that we've already done. So some of the pitch developments were really, really important to us because the Ibrox pitch was way below the standard that one I would want, 2 the manager would want, and definitely what the players would want. So that was a really, really important foundation for us to make an investment in. But when I arrived here just over 2 years ago, I was really keen, and Stuart had set out before I arrived, that we needed to have a clear plan for what the football operation looks like at Rangers. We built a plan titled Building a Modern Winning Rangers. I've said a number of times when I've spoken, we understand that at this club there's no point building a really modern football infrastructure that doesn't win anything. That's never going to be accepted at all. But equally in my own head, it was never going to be accepted that we built a structure that won, a team that won, but it was built on sand and there was nothing behind it at all. I wanted to make sure we had a modern football structure in all of our areas. So we've made a lot of changes. There's been a lot of work, a lot of energy. I'm supported by a brilliant staff back at the training ground. We had to really evolve our academy, in my view. Working with Craig Mulholland, our head of academy, we've changed the profile a lot of, one, what the structure of the academy looks like, but also what the profile of our coaches look like. We will make another appointment in the coming weeks, as we referenced last week in one of the statements we made about the academy, which will be another exciting step forward for us in the area of coaching and player development. Across our medical and sports science functions, I wanted us to have a much clearer approach in terms of how we use data to inform some of our decisions. That's now embedded there, and we can still do more, and we can still do even better in that respect. We probably have the strongest medical and sports science function that we've had here in a long time. And again, we'll continue to grow that and make that better. We clearly wanted to integrate our girls and women's football into the football operation. So it wasn't something that Rangers wanted to do to tick a box. It's something we wanted to do seriously and do it properly. So that's now completely integrated as well. One of the first things I said was I felt the club was no longer connected to the market from a scouting and recruitment point of view. Before I got here, I sought the counsel of a number of agents across the UK and Europe and the world to really ask what their view was on Rangers. And everybody knew about our fan base, our history, the size of the club, but they weren't quite sure what we were now, what we wanted to be now. And I think we've drastically moved that on. We've brought some really high-level scouting and recruitment personnel to join us. We've built a strong data team again that can get even stronger. So across all of our football pillars, we've tried to invest. We've tried to take it forward. But most importantly for me, we've really joined up as one club because I felt we were fragmented before. It feels like we are much more connected today. But we're definitely not at the end of that journey, because I see a lot of gains that we can make, because we have to continue to move forward. We can never rest on our laurels and think, okay, over the last 2 years we've built a fantastic football structure, we've got a really strong squad, we've got a fantastic manager and coaching team. Yeah, all of that would be true, but we have to keep our foot to the floor. We have to keep moving forward. We have to remember the club that we represent. And one of the things that I always say to my staff at the training ground is having a what's next mentality. When we've done something, what can we do next? Without being reckless, without being kamikaze, but making sure that we have a clear plan to keep moving the club forward in all of the areas, because football doesn't stop, and we definitely can't stop.
And Stuart, something that you've mentioned already is new Edmonton House, which is set to open late next year. The progress there is clear with the steel framework now going up. Can you update on the club's plans for the venue?
Yeah, we're excited by new Edmonton House. I mean, you all know Edmonton House sat there for many years, not doing anything. You know, it was a non-revenue generating asset for the club. And we've looked at various plans for that site and come up with what I'm really excited about, and the board are really excited about. It's going to be a modern, multi-purpose venue that will generate a good revenue stream for the club going forward. I think it addresses various things. It will help us. I mean, the different components of new Edmonton House will include, there'll be a venue that can be used for conferences, for concerts, for dinners, for functions, for other live events. And, for example, you may end up on the AGM in there. The size would be just about right for that. We're excited by the concerts and the live events capabilities of the venue. And from all the research we've done, we believe there's a real opportunity for that side of the business. But I think most importantly, it'll improve our fan engagement on a match day, because we'll be able to use it as a fan zone and we'll be able to have families actually using that space. And it always amazes me that if I'm in the office early, you look out the window at 12 o'clock for a 3 o'clock kickoff, the number of people who are milling about the stadium, and we've got nothing for them to do. And we need to improve that. So it's a step towards improving that side of things. But I'm really excited about is the museum. The museum's going to be about telling the story of Rangers, the social history of the club, the people who made it what it was, or what it is, sorry, people who made the club what it is and what it's going to be in the future, and laying those foundations for what happens in the next 150 years. Because Edmonton House is going to be the legacy project of the 150th anniversary, and it really will be the jewel in the crown. But it has to be an operational venue, and to do that, we've had to make sure we have someone to run it. And we've brought in a chap called Dave Pyatt from the O2 down south in England, the O2 Academy in Islington, and he's going to drive he's charged with driving the revenues of the new Edmonton House forward to make sure that the profits from that venture find their way onto the pitch and ultimately lends itself to strengthening the first team squad. So really excited about it. We're going to have 2 stories of retail in there as well, which will free up the space where the Rangers store currently is, and we'll look to convert that into a sports bar or some kind of hospitality venue, but more likely a sports bar, where actually somewhere else for the fans to go and help improve, the fan experience of coming to Ibrox on a match day. So we're really excited. I think seeing the steelwork coming out of the ground suddenly makes it real. It's probably going to be the back end of 2022 before it'll be completed. But I think when we see the museum project as well, some of the things we've uncovered, even just last week, Joe Morrison, who's our curator, came across the original letter ordering the Blue Gates for Ibrox, and I love all of that stuff. Some of you I'm probably more into it than others, but could spend hours looking at some of the stuff we've got. But we need to find ways of getting that history out to the fans and non-fans as well. Let's get the Rangers story out to as wide an audience as possible and do that. And just before I finish, just going slightly off-piste here, I actually just want to thank all the staff at the club for everything they went through in the last 18 months through COVID. We couldn't have got to where we are without the staff at the club, and they deserve a big round of applause, so thank you for that.
And James Stewart spoke about revenue there. How important are the club's commercial partners to our revenue growth aspirations?
I think they're really important, Nick. I think it was the last AGM when this board and Deputy Chairman John Bennett spoke about the club coming from the recovery period to the growth periods, which we're absolutely on now. And I think our commercial partnerships epitomise that. I think we were really, really fortunate during the pandemic that we had existing partners that were hugely supportive of this football club. And you think about a partnership with Rangers, you obviously get the association with the club, but you also get a lot of tangible benefits like hospitality, tickets, access to players, events, and we weren't able to provide those benefits, but because of the relationships we had, because of the people at those partners, they continued to support this football club, which was phenomenal and should be recognised. What we were also able to do was go to the market in a strategic way, but also an aggressive way, I believe, and to grow our commercial partnerships. And I think that's now started to evidence itself in the commercial revenues that come through from partnerships. I think the season before we were around 3 million. We're now at 4.7 for the year that's gone, and we'll be at 7 for this year. So then you add the retail revenue, it quickly takes us to 12. So it's constant progress. And I think what we are doing as a football club is certainly at the cutting edge, if I can use that phrase, within Scotland. I think we are competitive in the UK. We're very data-driven in the way that we go to the market. We're very digitally led, and we've got some really talented people. So, no, I think commercial partners should be recognised in terms of the investment in the club, but it's also an area for me where I think we've still got a high ceiling and an ability to grow, which is exciting when we look at where that can take us both on and off the pitch.
And Ross, just to finish with yourself, can you provide a general update on player contracts?
I get asked about this all the time. Player contracts I get it's a hot topic. I get it's something that people are excited about. We are generally really, really relaxed about where we are with our player contracts. In terms of players' contracts who will expire this season, there's probably 3 groups there that I would look at. One, the group of our older players, and we always would review those towards the end of the existing season, and this season will be no different. I think that's sensible, both for us and for the players, to take a view on where those players are at that moment in time, and we'll do that again. The easier category is anybody who we would say they're just not contributing at all with a contract that's finishing. Then it's safe to say that those players will depart at the end of their time here. And then thirdly, a player or a group of players whose contracts are up, who are playing regularly for us. We have a clear contract model here. We have a clear wage structure. And anybody that signs a contract at Rangers, I can assure you, will sign a contract within that structure. And we wouldn't be prepared to break that structure at all, because that's important to us, that we have a prudent way of working. However, it's also fair to say that players can take their own view, they can take their own time, and if they want to take a contract which is in excess of that model, then that's also okay for them to take that view as well. But we're really, really relaxed about that. We take a view in every contract on its own merits, providing that it sits within our model. But what I would also say, because I have saw a lot said about this, is I work with a group of players every day. I see them every single day, and it wouldn't be fair for any player to look at his commitment, look at their commitment, look at their focus, because this group of players every single day, certainly across the last year and a bit that I've been here 2 and a bit years, but definitely over the last year and a bit, their focus, their commitment, and their concentration to doing really, really well for Rangers is absolutely clear to me. So irrespective of a player's contract status, I don't think it's ever fair to label that at them as well. But as a general principle, we're really, really comfortable with where we're at on all of our contract management today.
Thank you, Ross, and thank you, gents. And with that, I hand back to James. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now ask for questions from the floor. There are 2 mics in the aisles, and I would ask those who wish to ask questions to line up behind them. You'll see them marked 1 and 2, and I'll take questions from each location in turn. Whilst people organise themselves for that and line up to ask questions, can I just remind shareholders who have voting cards today that the ballot boxes are at the rear of the hall, and can I ask them to post their ballots on their way out? Please remember to sign your ballot card, and please also remember to fill it in and complete it first. Thank you. If we can take the first question from mic number 1, please.
My name is George Hogan, and I'm asking this question on behalf of the contributors of Club 1872. In the recent Tiffany share offer document, the company disclosed a loan of $5.25 million, accruing interest of 6% per annum and secured against Edmonton House. In the most recent annual report, the company disclosed that a further $8.5 million of loans had been provided subsequent to the year end. Can the board please detail the basis on which these further loans have been provided? Have they been provided on an interest-free basis without security in order to be converted to equity, as was the case with previous investor loans? Or are they interest-bearing and secured against club assets, as was the case with the £5.25 million loan disclosed in the offer document?
Shall I take that, Chairman? Yes.
Thank you.
It's a bit of both. So you may have seen it in the past week, we've issued £3.5 million of new equity. That's existing investors converting to equity, but some of it is secured against Edmonton House. That is a piece of security that's been given before, you might recall. There is no new security on any of the club's assets being given against the updated numbers, and I'll give you those updated numbers. £13 million has gone in as loan. Now, I don't know about you, but Edmonton House alone, as security for that, Edmonton House is not worth that to any lender. I think you'd agree with that. You're only able to do that because it's friendly lenders, including myself. So the other thing about the 6%, I've seen something about that. That is the lowest coupon this company's been paying. The lowest coupon this company's been paying. It was paying 9. You might remember we had a relationship with Close Brothers. That was 9 and a bit. I think was it over 9, Stuart? Over 9?
9%.
We repaid a loan to the former chairman, was 8. It's now 6, and that's the benchmark. That is the benchmark we've had. We alluded to it in the annual report. We made reference to we've had a number of approaches from players that you might see down south, for example. I think you'll see Watford Football Club in the last month, for example. A good source for all of this, incidentally, is Kieran Maguire at the price of football. I think he's very good on this because he picks it all up. So we've had numerous approaches, including in November. And it's so interesting. They come to you. It can be private equity. It can be family offices. It can be banks such as Macquarie Bank, and Macquarie are active in the football space. They can't touch our terms. And what I've been saying at the board, and a number of us have been saying, is, okay, these are interesting approaches, and I can tell you one of them was at 13% per annum. 13% per annum. We're not paying that. We're no longer paying 9. We're no longer paying 8. 6 is the new benchmark. And if those external providers can come in and beat that at 2 levels, a lower coupon, because 6 is the new benchmark, we've driven the cost of funding down to 6. I think that's one of the lowest numbers in the whole of football in Britain for loans. But also on security, and I can assure you, they want a whole lot more security and they want a higher coupon.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett, for your answer. Thank you.
If we can now have a question from Mike 2.
My name's Henry Simpson. I've got 2 complaints with the blind party. The first one, we're getting split up, and Stevie, we sat together behind the dugout. Why are we not getting back to the dugout? It's the wee dugout. We're getting up the top and going down the bottom. We're getting shifted. We're getting separated by the blind party. And the second thing I've got is complaint about why I'm not getting away tickets all the blind parties not getting away tickets to go to a game. It's all the wheelchairs just getting them. I've bring it up umpteen times to you, every shareholders meeting, and there's nothing done about it. So I want something done about it before I go to the TVs.
Okay. Henry, I'll take your second question first, because you're right, you do ask the same question every year. And I'll give you the same answer. I'll give you every year, which is... Henry, we can only, and we do make requests to the away clubs.
It's supposed to be 50-50. All the wheelchairs is getting them all. The blind party are not getting any.
But that's...
Going to Hampden, see.
Henry, the decision there is...
We're getting them for Hampden, but it's got to...
Look, Henry, it's a decision for the away club. It's not, it's a decision for the home club. And it's what they do in their stadiums. It's not our stadium. We'll make a request, and if they can't facilitate it, there's nothing else we can do other than make the request. In relation to your first question, I don't have an answer to that, but let's have a catch up at the end and I'll try and find out for you. But I don't have an answer for you off the top of my head on that one, I'm afraid. But I will come back to you on that, and I'll catch you at the end of the meeting. Okay, thanks, Henry.
And if we can have another question from Mike 2, please.
Hi, my name is David Ferguson from Renfrew. Obviously, during the pandemic, the ticket office has been closed and various other offices have been closed. But I'm sure you're well aware of the issue fans have got contacting the club, whether it's buying tickets, missing tickets, away tickets, tours. They can't get anyone on the phone. People are emailing 15 and 20 times sometimes. The SLO, the guy Greg, he's the only guy that seems to answer anything, and that's few and far between. I know you've appointed a customer relations manager, customer services manager. How far down the line is he into getting an office, and how far down the line are we to getting the ticket office opened and people actually answering phones and emails?
Yeah, I'll start the answer to that. Yep. Listen, we absolutely take the point on board, because I think it was the Malmo game was just way below where it should have been. It was a shambles, frankly, and we shouldn't be producing that level of service. What we've done since then, we've brought in some customer service agents. There's a team of agents now working, and a chap called David Milburn has come in as a customer service manager. David's been in 3 weeks? 3 weeks now, and we're already seeing a difference at our end. Now, that's maybe not quite made it back to the fans and the supporters, but it's an area that's absolutely top of the list that we need to improve. And I take everything on board that you're saying. I'm not going to argue with it, because our customer service hasn't been good enough and it needs to be better. I don't know, James, if you want to...
Yeah, no, I would just echo that, Stuart. I think, we quickly recognised after the Malmo game that the level wasn't as it needed to be in terms of customer service. So we brought in David, and we brought in a team underneath David. So there's resource there, and already in the first few weeks we've seen that the speed in which the customer service team are able to answer queries has improved. I think we're answering 90% of queries within the same day now. We've also invested in some of the technology, and we'll continue to do that, because I think we're aware that our digital platforms, when it comes to the interface around ticketing, is not where it needs to be. We're with a supplier at the moment that is probably not reaching the level that we need to reach. So there are a number of initiatives that are going on to improve that, because I think everything that you've said is something that we would agree, but hopefully you're reassured that it's something that we're investing in on a number of levels.
Okay, is the ticket office any further forward? I understand the pandemic situation, but it's only open on match days. Even if you'd said 1 or 2 other days, every second day, you get the ticket office open, people could get to speak to people.
I think that's something we'll get David to assess as to where we've gone. We did go online with the tickets. We've maybe gone slightly too far, too quickly, to be honest. And sometimes you do things that don't quite work the way you hope they'll work. So that's something we're looking at, and based on demand and where fans are, what fans are wanting and the level of demand. But likewise, if you can give us a wee bit of time just to work through that, and hopefully we'll get to an equilibrium with the whole thing and get to a position where the thing's working much more smoothly than it was.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And if we can go back now to Mike 1 for a question, please.
Charlie Murray, Linwood. Mr. Chairman, I made this same statement 3 years ago here. I'll just repeat it. Mr. Chairman, the facilities at Ibrox for disabled wheelchair supporters are a disgrace for a club of Rangers standing. I support a severely disabled wheelchair user. We are currently seated in the east enclosure, but have also sat in the west enclosure. The view from either is extremely poor. Because of the camber of the pitch, we cannot see the touchline, the Govan side. Indeed, we cannot see below a player's knees if he's standing in the far touchline. From the east enclosure, we cannot see within 10 yards of the goal line at the main stand, Broomloan Road corner, because of the intrusion of the dugouts in the tunnel. From the west enclosure, it is the same with the main stand, Copeland Road stand, which is out of view. We are open to the elements of wind and rain. Indeed, when the rain is heavy, we are in our seats with our feet trapped in puddles. So bad is this situation that some supporters leave early, and indeed, many don't take up their seats when there is likely to be heavy rain. I attended a Colts versus Wrexham game and sat in the Govan stand. For the first time in 10 years, I could see all 4 corner flags and all of the touch lines and goal lines without worry about wind and rain. We proudly sing that our team is simply the best. All we ask our club should take steps to allow us to proudly boast that facilities for the disabled are also simply the best.
I can't argue with anything you're saying, and it's an area we haven't covered ourselves in glory on. Frankly, we had a board meeting yesterday and it was discussed, and we've got a new disability liaison officer, a chap called John Spears, joined us I think 6 weeks ago, and we'll sit down with John and we need to come up with a plan to improve it. It's just no good enough that in this day and age people are sitting in the kind of conditions that they're sitting in watching football. So I'm not going to argue anything you say. I apologise for the conditions that you're watching the football in, and give you my word that we will undertake to come back to you. When we're sitting here next year, at the very least there'll be a plan in place to improve the disabled access.
To be fair, Stuart, it's not easy what we're trying to do. We know we've got to do it, but we're finding it very difficult with the infrastructure that we've got, but we need to come up with some plan.
The road, right, so you can't make a continual exit to both sides. And I can well understand it, but it would have been appreciated if a statement had come out and said, Charlie Murray asked a question and here's the difficulties, but we'll work on it. But wait now, nobody said a word. Now, I sit among the people, and Thursday night there, it was a disaster. The wind was wheeking in by the gap between the main stand and the other stand, and it just whips right along the front of the park. It doesn't go up the back, it just... So everybody that's sitting where we have to sit are drookit, blown off their seat and all the rest of it. The one consolation that I have is that the wee man I take to the football is going to still go, because he's a supporter.
Yeah, no, look, as I say, as Douglas said there, we actually had this discussion yesterday at length. As he said, there was a lot of time spent on it. We need to get... You've got an old stadium, so I'm not making excuses, but the reality is you've got an old stadium and you're looking at how you can adjust it to actually do it. But we need to come up with a plan. You know, it's been too long and we need to sort it. So I take everything you're saying on board. Good, thank you.
Thank you. If we can have a question from Mike 2, please.
Hello, I'm John. I'm a season ticket holder in BF4. At the AGM 2 years ago, the board reported that the club is in the process of conducting a feasibility study into safe standing. What were the results of that study?
To be honest, probably COVID kicked in, and the back of that, we've never actually completed it. That's a short answer. It's never actually been completed. It's not something that is on our immediate radar. Is the short answer. I'm conscious there's been groups of fans are keen to have the safe standing in the stadium, but there are various issues you need to look at in terms of who moves, where do you put it, how do you do it.
But that's not something that's been top of our list of priorities over the last couple of years since COVID kicked in, I'm afraid. I don't doubt it would improve the atmosphere, but it's where you put it, who has to be displaced to accommodate it. You know, there's a lot of fans, there'll be fans like the chap that had mission, is it John? Sorry, your name? Like John, who'll say, you know, yeah, we'll do it and it'll be great. But what about the guy who has to shift his seat to accommodate them? You know, the guy's been there 25, 30 years. So it's not a binary situation. You're having to take in a lot of different views when you actually consider this. So I get the atmosphere point, I absolutely agree with that. But there's other considerations have to be taken into account.
Was the general gist of the study at the time that people were in favour of it though? Or was there quite a lot of pushback from supporters?
There was a bit of pushback, but there was a lot of, I mean, it was probably, it was a mixed reaction to the whole thing. And it depended where your view was. Do you want to be one of the guys that's up there singing and getting the atmosphere going, or do you want to be one of the guys that's always sat in the seat for the last 20 years? So it's a kind of natural split that you're going to get on that kind of study. But listen, I understand where you're coming from, but unfortunately with everything else that's happened in the last couple of years, we've not had it up at the top of our priorities. I think the BF1 the guys in BF1 tend to be standing. I don't know how far along the Broomley it goes, but on the corner. But the lads, I don't know if you're part of the guys in BF1, John, but what the guys, if you talk to the group there, they'd rather be right in the middle, behind the goal, front and centre or something. So that means accommodating things. It's not just putting in some safe standing in that corner, because the guys who are in there don't really want to be there.
Unfortunately, the biggest priority is to try and sort the disability thing out, and that's been top of our list, and we are finding it very, very difficult to try and solve the problem. We've had a few proposals put to us that lowering the pitch to solve it. We're not in a position to do that at the moment, but we will look at the safe standing, but I think the disability comes first.
Thank you. If we can now actually have a question from amongst the disabled fans. Thank you.
My name's Steve Sinclair. I'm a wheelchair user and proudly follow my club everywhere. Now I'm going to read the question I've got here, boys. I know you've answered it to some extent, but could you bear with me? And Stuart, once again it's AGM, and once again I want to talk about the facilities for the disabled supporters at the stadium. I'm not going to ask what's planned. I've been doing that for 5 years, 18 years in a wheelchair, and I could write the same email today as I did 18 years ago. I genuinely believe that you and the board know that there's an issue, and that as soon as you can, you will improve the facilities. I'm not going to come up with ideas, but what I'd like to do is to show you just how difficult it is for wheelchair users to access the ground and the poor facilities within. I'd like to meet you and any other board member who is interested at the Albion car park and join me in getting from there to a viewing position within the ground. The catch is, I'd like to provide you with a couple of spare wheelchairs and let you really see the issues and difficulties faced every day, every match day, by wheelchair users. By you actually wheeling a few yards in my wheels, hopefully it will speed up any plans the club may have to improve the poor facilities throughout the stadium. Incidentally, we're not alone having poor disabled facilities. Every other club in Scotland, bar maybe one or two, have atrocious facilities. But that doesn't mean to say we can't be a leading club. Will you accept this challenge, board?
Thanks for that, Stephen. What I would say in terms of disabled facilities is one of the discussions we've had with some disabled fans, it's not all of them, but some wheelchair fans, sorry, is that we have car parking spaces on the footprint which are much closer to the ground than the Albion. But because, by definition, those cars don't get away as quickly as the cars in the Albion, a lot of the fans actually have said they don't want to be there. So that it creates a bit of a quandary. We have tried to find solutions to that part of the problem. I'm not making excuses for the stadium, but to actually be closer and have less far to travel to get to the ground, actually whilst in your wheelchair. So that's something we've tried to do, but a lot of fans don't want that. You know, so you're trying to square that up, and it can be difficult sometimes. John, you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce what both Stuart and the chairman have said, but to give you a sense of that it is now a priority. It has been escalated. We spent a good amount of time on it yesterday at the board meeting. And I had spent time with a gentleman called John Easton on Saturday night at a dinner, a wheelchair user, and he articulated, like you gentlemen have articulated, the challenges, the frustrations for just how long it's been going on. And just to give you one live example, because this came up, I think as the chairman has articulated, you've got to make resource allocation decisions in any business, whether it's a football club or not. So we have a decision to take on, say, Blue Sky Lounge, and this came up yesterday as a live example. And in this context, so what are the spaces that we can get there for wheelchair users? Just one example, because that will be a project in 2022. And it was interesting, so the discussion went along the lines of, well, that means you're going to knock out X number of seats, and to a man on the board, it was okay, so be it. That also means your payback in financial terms is stretched. To a man on the board, so be it. We need to do this. That's just one example. And I think that's the mood on the board, to take up that challenge with each project. But we can only do one at a time, given that configuration of that stadium. I just want to reinforce how important we take this. It has been escalated, and the guys went away yesterday to say, right, the board tasked them to go away, take this seriously, come back with meaningful plans to get more space for people like yourself.
If we can have a question now again from Mike 1.
Thank you. My name's Mark Campbell. I just firstly wanted to say a massive thank you to the board for everything that you've done for us. To Ross and James for the visible improvements since you've joined us, and a warm welcome as well to Giovanni and the team. Very quickly. James, you stole my thunder a little bit. I was looking at the size and loyalty of our fan base, and I just feel like the commercial and retail income still feels low. So great to hear the projections. But the accounts talk about Scottish football being undersold and undervalued. I just wondered how much does that hamper us, and what have we got in plan to tackle that?
It's hard to quantify it, Mark, but I mean, my views are well known on how the game's run. You know, I've made it very well known over the last 18 months and beyond. It's not changed any. I've been in the SPFL board since July, and you know, I get a hard time when I go to the board meetings, and whenever I speak about this, you should get any issues, deal with it at the board meetings. But I think it's important that we keep trying to be the best we can be. We try to do that as a football club, but we need the authorities to be the best they're going to be as well, to assist us to do that. Look at what we've done for the European coefficient, over the last 4 years. And you look at some of the situations we've got ongoing just now, there's the obvious one, I'm not going to name it, but in relation to the sponsorship, I just think things could be done a lot better, a lot more efficiently, and with better governance. Now, there's the 5-club review going on, that they've got Deloitte's review. I haven't seen the draft report of that yet, but hopefully see it shortly, and see if there are ways of actually increasing the revenues. But we really have taken the view that we've just got and try and grow our own revenues to the best extent we can with the team that we've got here. And I think we're doing a good job of that. As I say, we're on the cusp of financial sustainability, and we'll look after ourselves. And then if the other bit comes, then fine. But I think we've learned over the last few years, we need to just get the head down and focus on Rangers and make Rangers the best it can be.
Thank you. Watson, Campbell Rangers Supporters Club. The question's on behalf of the Rangers Supporters Association. It's regarding Rangers Supporters Clubs this season. Our allocations have been cut quite considerably, and then we're looking at now the plan for last season, where we were going to be asked to charge each member £10 a head. Is that coming in next season? And if it is, can there be some dialogue with the Rangers Supporters Association beforehand?
Chairman, shall I take that one? Yeah. Hi, Craig. Thanks for your question. So I will get this clarified for certain, but my understanding is the RSC allocations for away games haven't been cut. They continue to be provided by the ticket office. We had looked at a mechanism whereby, because MyJo's members were paying a fee to be part of the ticketing programme, as much as a much wider fee, if RSCs would come into that. So there was some dialogue, there was some consultation, and then COVID hit, so a final decision wasn't taken, and it still hasn't been taken, but I can certainly commit that before any decision's taken, there'll be further consultation. To be transparent, that isn't something that's on the table at the moment. It's not something that we're looking to implement. But as I said, the allocations, the number of tickets to RSCs continues to be provided. I think everyone on the board recognises the importance of RSCs, the culture, the travel to away games. So it's something that will continue to be backed by the football club.
Okay, just to confirm...
Sorry, we really are almost out of time. Can we just move on to another question from Mike 1, please?
Hi there, David Morrison. Is there any update on naming a part of the ground for Walter Smith or creating a special part in the museum for Walter?
It goes to say that there are definitely negotiations and discussions going on. What the outcome is, we haven't come to a decision yet, but you be rest assured something will be done. What did you want to mention? No, I think it's maybe, there's 3 or 4 things we want to do. So I think you need to leave it to us and trust us to do it. Because we've also got to remember we've got another. Well, to go out publicly I mean, is a difficult one. I think you've got to trust the board to be able to come up with the right decisions.
I think as long as it's something that's befitting of Walter and obviously the club, then I think everybody would be on board with that.
The memorial service went on, and we have to continue from there to the decision what to do.
If we can have a final question from Mike 1, thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here at the Football Club AGM. Can I just ask a question? It was covered earlier, but maybe in a wrong way in terms of targeting people. But we know we've got our own element within Rangers that don't bring the club good publicity. But we are held to a different account in Scotland by the media and the government. So there's 2 MSPs in general. Hum's a useless MSP and James Dornan MSP. And I'm not sure if MSP means something to do with speaking P, but anyway. What's the club doing? Because James mentioned earlier about brand protection. Now for me, brand protection is not just that logo up there of Rangers Football Club. It's Rangers. Rangers Football Club, shareholders, fans, the corporates as well. It's everyone within Rangers. So all the time we get these negative stories in the press by certain people, MSPs, government, Susan Aitken, the Glasgow City Mayor, whatever she's called. It's all these negative stories that we never ever seem to get feedback from the club on. Now, David Graham might be the best person to answer this in your role, but we need to protect the club. The brand protection starts with the club, and it doesn't end. The supporters and the vilification of Rangers in general. If you tell a lie often enough and loud enough, it becomes fact. Just ask the crowd from the other side of the city.
Yeah, I think it would be remiss of us to probably go into every intimate detail and the minutiae of what we do on a day and daily basis when it comes to PR and the media, but rest assured that we are holding the media to account privately. Rest assured that everything we do has the best interest of Rangers Football Club at heart. And I have no doubt that a lot of what you say is 100% correct. What we look for is fairness, balance, accuracy in all the reports about Rangers. And in reality, that's an ongoing process, isn't it? And ultimately, in 5, 10, 15 years, when maybe none of us are in this stage and it's new people, whatever the case may be, we will still face challenges, and I look at the history books, and when David Holmes was involved in the club in 1986, which was the year I was born, a lot of the complaints that you've just outlined there are complaints that were being outlined 35 years ago. And the reality of it is that we need to continue to work every single day to hold people that say unfair things, hold them to account. In reality, negativity with a free press, if people say a legitimate opinion, We have to be sensible in our approach. It can't be scattergun. It has to be forensic. I think it probably needs to be more scalpel than it does chainsaw. But in reality, this is a long-term process, and I would like to think that the trust that you've got in the people sitting on the stage, that we are doing our best to not only protect, but I think ultimately to develop and promote the brand, and ultimately make us into an international club and worldwide.
Thanks, Phil. As you said, 1986, a long time ago, and we've had dignified silence even since before 1986. We're in a new world where if you tell lies all the time, so, you know, James Dornan said that Rangers supporters trashed his banner. How does he know that? No, but that's out in the press and we don't challenge it. And if we don't challenge it, then, it's these Rangers fans again. They're out of control. If there's only one group of fans that's out of control in this city, and the Rangers fans are second. For the first time, they're second to the crowd across the city.
Look, I think it's important that we're positive, and I think that let's look in the positives of the last week, 10 days. You know, we had over 50,000 people on our YouTube channel alone that watched Giovanni's first press conference. You then have Sky Sports, you then have STV. We're then broadcast in America, in Australia, in Holland in particular now. So, you know, what people say about this, that's their opinion and that's fine. Ultimately, we'll continue to ignore the noise and continue to drive forward for the football club.
Okay, thank you.
Many thanks to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business of today's meeting. I'd like to thank you all for your interest and for your attendance, and to declare today's meeting closed. Can I remind those who are going to vote to place their votes in the ballot box at the back of the hall as they leave? Thank you.